Well, good afternoon, Mr. Anderson. My name is Jan Hicks, and I am with the World War II Veteran History Project, interviewing Mr. James Anderson on October 2nd, 2008, at the Augusta Prep Library. And I am delighted to meet you, Mr. Anderson.
I'm glad to meet you too.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Where did you grow up, James?
Pardon?
Where did you grow up?
Grew up, Lincoln, Georgia.
And did you grow up on the farm, or
On the farm,
did you have a big family?
yeah. And my father got killed early. And then we all just grew up on the farm, left there.
Mm-hmm.
Until I I stayed there until I went in service.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a lot of brothers?
I had 2 brothers and 1 sister.
Mm-hmm. Did you have uncles or a
Oh,
granddad who was in the military?
I had plenty of them.
Were they in the military ever?
They were, some lived there and some lived in Abbeville.
Mm-hmm. You enlisted in the Army in November 42 out of Lincolnton.
November 42.
Now, what possessed you to enlist? What?
I don't even know. Well, I guess the main thing, I knew I was going to go sooner or later.
Mm-hmm.
And the best thing to do was go and get it over with.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a buddy was going in. We were going to stay together. We enlisted together. But then he didn't want to go where I wanted to go. So I said, well, I'll just see you later. So I never saw him no more until in Italy.
Until when?
I met him again in Italy.
Italy? Oh, really?
On the docks.
Oh, man.
Unloading the boat. That was a long ways up.
Now, you said you wanted to be a paratrooper. What made you want to be a paratrooper before you even knew what a paratrooper
Really,
did?
I don't even know. It was just an idea, I guess.
Mm-hmm,
But, I was young then, and I just wanted to do something different.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I had to get my mother to sign it.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I ain't signing. I said, well, I'm going one way or the other. What do you want to do? She just signed it to go ahead.
And I forgot what you told me earlier. Did your brothers also go in any of the services?
No, my brother didn't go. Neither one of them. Mm-hmm. One of them was old enough, and the other one was working on a government job. Mm-hmm. What they call a wartime job or something. He never drafted, the oldest brother was.
Mm-hmm. Now, you went at 19, is that right? Enlisted at 19?
I would have been 20 in January.
So you were almost 20.
Almost 20.
Mm-hmm. So your mom wasn't that hot on the idea at first?
Not to start with, no.
Well, where did you go for basic training?
I went to Camp Welder, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
That was 13 weeks of basic training.
What was it like?
It wasn't bad because I had already had training, the same thing they had in the Army, from when I was 16 years old up till I went in the Army. Kind of like these school kids go, And I knew all the basic moves. And I had a ball in Texas.
Well, plus this farm boy, probably in pretty good shape.
I was in good shape.
Mm-hmm. Well, you graduated from basic training, early 43. What were you trained to do at that point?
Well, at that point, when I finished basic training, I already knew where I was supposed to go. I already knew that I was supposed to go to Fort Benning. And basically, they kept shipping them out of the battalion I was in. And I kept asking the sergeant, I said, when am I going to leave? He said, in your group.
Yeah.
Well, there 16 of us left from there. They went to Fort Benning. And that was some hard training.
Now, was that when you went to jump school?
Yeah.
Benning?
5 weeks.
Yep, 5 weeks is right.
And it was hard. But I had so much fun. A lot of them boys come down there, they couldn't do nothing. They weren't in good shape. Some of them had never seen a rifle before. and we had to climb ropes. I told him, I said, you got to learn how to climb a rope. I said, and rest. I could go up a rope like a monkey.
I take it you also did some hunting as a boy.
Hunting? All my life.
Of course, yeah. That's why rifles were so easy to come.
Still hunting. And I don't miss much. I don't.
Well, I
you
believe
ask them boys that hunt with me.
I believe you.
I enjoy it. Hunting and fishing. Ever since I come out of the army, that's all I've done. My wife she wouldn't say nothing to me about, if I told her, I said, I'm going hunting. She didn't say, you don't go or you don't do this. I'd go.
Well, James, what was your first unit then? After basic training, what was the first unit you assigned?
The first unit I went into was Service Company of 504. After I finished all my training in Fort Benning and was shipped out to the 82nd Airborne, they were making up the Airborne to ship overseas. And I went straight to the Airborne and straight overseas. And I didn't stay in the 82nd but just a little while before I was on a boat. And we were gone, and we didn't know where we were going.
But you ended up in
Casablanca and all that.
How was that trip across the ocean?
Miserable. Miserable. I went over on a boat called the Washington. There were 6,000 soldiers on there, and I believe 4,000 of them were sick.
Oh.
It was miserable on there. I stayed out on deck. I couldn't stay in them holes.
Yeah, gets the fresh air at least.
It was laughing.
And
I had one boy who went with me named Hicks from Atlanta. He got sick the day the boat, well, it left out it in the night. I was out on deck then, and I heard him, I'm sick. He was sick from day one till that boat docked 16 days later. He said, I ain't never going back home.
That's miserable.
But I don't know whatever happened to him.
Well, when you were in Casablanca, what did your unit do there? What were your missions?
Really, when we got off the boat in Casablanca, North Africa, we didn't have much transportation. We started walking. And we walked down to a little village, Arab village called Augusta, Africa. And when we got to that place, and nothing there but hot sunshine, 110 degrees in the shade if you could find a shade. And we stayed there for maybe a month. And then we moved to a place called Airborne, Africa. That's where we started all our basic training. We tried jumping there, you know, just practicing. And finally we got on down toward Tunis. And that's where we went out from to go to Sicily. When we
Now, you had kind of a interesting thing happen on the Sicily invasion. You had said that you never got off the plane.
I never got off the plane.
Tell me about that.
My job on the plane going over there was to pull the static lines. You know, when they go out to put the static line back in, go back to Africa, and come back to Sicily. We never unloaded.
And why?
We couldn't find a place to drop. It was messed up. It was awful. Planes falling everywhere. We lost 700 men now. You ain't gonna believe that, man. We got 700 replacements in one regiment. We lost 29 planes. I know we lost that many. I don't know what happened. 45th Infantry Division shot at us, the Navy shot at us, the Germans shot at us. Everybody was shooting at us. Some of the planes just made it to the beach and landed in the water. It was awful. But it went on anyway. And the Germans were trying to back out, get off of the island and lead the Italians to watch it, the front. they didn't do no job of it, so they come out in droves and just quit.
So you went back to North Africa then?
We went back to North Africa after that, then regrouped.
No, you flew back. In other words, you just turned around and flew back.
Yeah, flew back to Africa, where we hauled a lot of stuff into Sicily, and some of us stayed there. I think I stayed there in Sicily, and then we loaded that stuff on the boat heading for Italy, which we didn't know where we were going, but that's where we ended up at. That's the first time I ever saw George Patton.
Oh, what happened there? What happened? How'd you happen to
He
meet him?
walked out on the beach with the boat. When we got off the boat, he just had to get out and start going toward the beach. And he was the first man I seen out there hauling that and rode to the front line. He was something else. I saw him a lot of times.
Well, you ended up going to Sicily for the invasion, turned around, went back to North Africa. Went to Sicily then by sea?
We
By
were,
sea transport?
some of us went by sea, some went by plane.
I see.
We never jumped all that much while we was over there. You know, the first invasion was July the 9th, 1943, on a moonlight night. And the next mission was supposed to be jumped in Italy. Well, when we got to Italy, Patton had already hit the beach. So we landed in Italy on that runway and unloaded. Most of our planes landed on the runway, and we brought boats in by more LSTs, if you want to call them a boat. But
Well, yeah, it's a huge
it was
landing
transportation.
ship, yeah.
It beat walking.
Well, once you got into southern Italy then, you started moving up, is that what you did? You moved up the country,
We
started
moved
moving?
all the way up to Venapo, Italy. And we got pulled back in Venapo, Italy, back to Naples. And when we got back to Naples, we regrouped again. And I thought we were going to England. Everybody else did. We loaded everything on boats, headed out to sea. Everybody talking about we were going to England. First thing I know, we were turning back in. I said, this don't look like it, England to me. And that was the Anzio beachhead. We ended up there 63 days.
Now, you did an amphibious landing.
We went in by
Beach.
boat there, yeah.
What was that? Describe how
It
that
wasn't
went.
all that bad when we first went toward the beach, because they didn't know we were coming in there. But right after that, they sheltered us every day and night for 63 days. I mean, every day. I'd like to go back there, where that big gun was setting up in the mountain. You could hear the projector come over the top of you, going to the where them boats were there.
What was the outcome of Anzio Beach? Were you
Really,
did you prevail then and then move
well,
on?
when they finally moved up from Naples, the regular army kept moving up from Naples up, and they joined in the back of us on the back side of us. We pulled back out, went back out to sea and went back to Naples, Italy, then loaded on the boat and went to England. And after that, the Normandy invasion started building up. And we had just pulled out of Anzio, so we got left behind on that deal.
You mean on D-Day?
Well, we didn't go in on the initial landing. We went in on the fourth day. And they had already established a beachhead on the fourth day. But
Did most of the 82nd drop in to Normandy?
Most of the 82nd, except the 504 regiment, dropped in by air.
Now, the 504, was that heavy equipment then? That's why you didn't
No, it
drop
was just a regular infantry.
Infantry regiment?
504
How'd you
parachute
get
infantry.
why didn't you get to drop in, do you think?
Pardon?
Why didn't you get to drop in, do you think?
Into we carried
Normandy.
equipment in.
Okay,
We carried all the equipment in.
okay.
But they scattered them all over that place. They dropped 30,000 paratroopers over there. That's a lot of people. And by the time they got all them in there, they had to have supplies, so that's what we started in with.
Did you fight in Germany, well, in France, moving over to Germany as a division usually, or was the 504th kind of in separate operations?
I really don't know whether it was a separate operation or not, but they always kept the 504 kind of in the reserve. The 505 was the next regiment, and then the 508. But the 504 always was what we call the hitman. If this one got in trouble up here, then they call on the 504. And the 3rd Battalion of the 504 was the best outfit we had over there. They called on them all the time. And the scariest I ever got was to go get the 3rd Battalion. You could hear Germans talking, night, no lights, up in the mountains, tanks going everywhere. I told one boy, I said, if we live through this, we'd be lucky. But we made it. I enjoyed it, and I didn't enjoy it. Because there's a lot of boys that didn't make it. And you can look in the back of that book and see all those names in there. I guess I just was lucky.
You fought your way through France and Germany, and
well, we went in France, and we started in France. We went to a place called Lyon, France, I think it was. First place we went to was some German barrack where they had been. Then we moved to Lyon, right out of Reims, France. And that's where it started at, from right there. And then we stayed close to the lines, or in the lines, from then on to the war ended. And then when we went into Nijmegen, Holland, we didn't jump in there. There's a few jumped in there in the advanced group. And the rest of them come in by land or glider or whatever. 20 miles behind the line. And then they started coming this way, and the other one coming this way, and one coming this way, and one this way. That was a bad place. Bad. First jet airplane I ever seen was right there.
the first what?
Jet airplane. We overrun the airport in Nijmegen, Holland, and they left some jet fighters on there. One of them was crated up and shipped to the United States. So that might be where we got our stuff.
So you took a glider, I understand. You flew a glider into Holland.
Yeah, we carried equipment in there in the glider, a radio jeep, two of us, two in the glider, and we was the pilot and the co-pilot. That was it.
And which were you?
I was supposed to be the co-pilot, and a little radio boy was the pilot. But somebody had to be in there in case.
Well, can you actually fly a glider? Or just
You can fly it as long as they're pulling you.
Well,
But when you cut that, they got a big nylon rope coming from the back of the plane, hooked to the front of it. When you reach up there and catch that handle and pull it, you're on your own then, that plane's gone.
that's what I mean. Can you do much to maneuver a glider?
Oh yeah, they
once
fly
you
like a
start-
cub,
Okay.
just about like a cub.
Okay.
You can land it on wheels or either skid, but see when we left out with the gliders, we dropped the wheels. And you just land it on the bottom because you ain't gonna pick it up, you're gonna leave it right there. And then we had a Jeep in there and it hooked to a brake cord that raises the front up where you can drive out. It
That had to
snapped
be an enormous glider.
Oh, it's big. It's big enough for a Jeep to drive in, that's
Yeah.
all. But if you stepped off, you'd fall out. You'd fall through that canvas. It wasn't nothing but pipe and canvas, no motor, nothing. Did have a radio in it, but that's all.
Did you do this under darkness conditions?
Pardon?
Or did you do this in the dark? Or
No, we never
it was
landed one
light-
in the dark.
so this all was done during the daytime?
Always in daytime.
And did you have anything to defend yourself?
Nothing but a rifle.
Gosh.
Well, most of the time you was behind the lines when you put one of them down anyway.
But this into Holland was by behind the lines. That was
We were
behind the enemy
way
lines.
behind the lines.
Right.
And then once you got in there, see, that split them all up. They went every which way.
Well, what did you do when you landed? I mean, once you realized you landed and you're not
We
hurt?
didn't have nothing to do with it. We stayed that close to a railroad track. Some guy, I guess he was underground, had a tam hat on like he come walking down the railroad track looking for us to come up. But we was kind of skittish to go up, but one went up. And he carried us up there and put us in a house in the cellar. We stayed there for 2-3 days and nights. And then finally a unit come up and picked us up and we went on out then.
How many gliders came in on this one wave?
I don't even know, but
Was
there was
it-
a bunch of them.
Oh, really?
There was a lot of British gliders and American gliders.
How did you then eventually link up back together as a unit? If you kind of scattered once you landed, how did you go about
You
finding?
wasn't scattered in the gliders much. We had a thing that they called a cricket. You might have heard of it. Everybody had one and you just pop it. And if you pop that cricket and he didn't answer, shoot him. Whoever it was. And a lot of them got killed by having a cricket that the Germans had done got a hold to. A lot of them got killed.
So
out
you
there.
didn't want to let that cricket go. You want to have it.
You had to have it.
Could you please tell me what a kind of a typical day in Holland was? How long were you there fighting in Holland?
And where?
In Nijmegen, once you made your glider insertion?
We stayed in, probably in Nijmegen. We probably stayed there about 90 days, maybe 4 months. I
Were
don't
you in
know.
contact
Oh,
every
yeah,
day?
we was in contact with somebody all the time. But when we went behind the lines, we were in contact with them all the time. But we knew they were coming one way, we were going the other way. We was trying to meet them. They tried to save that bridge, which they did, but there was a lot of people got killed.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of them. But they didn't, the Germans had to cross the bridge to come back. We had to cross the bridge to come back and go that way too. So they never blew that bridge. But they shot it up.
Have you watched the movie about Operation Market Garden?
I don't know,
The
but I
movie,
haven't.
it's called A Bridge Too Far.
But I might have watched
Have you
it.
seen that one?
I probably have.
I would recommend
I
that.
think I got
to
a
you.
tape of it. I'm not sure.
It
But I
chron-
never heard it called that before, because all I knew was that Nijmegen, Holland.
Yeah, you
But it's in Nijmegen.
were in Operation Market Garden, and
But
it
you
was
know-
a major.
When they come up on the bottom of that place down there, from where we come up at to cross that river in them boats, that was a slaughterhouse. They was waiting on them. They shot up boats. Well, they wasn't boats, they were just pontoon things looking, paddling them across that. And there's a world of people lost out there in that river. But they
kinda
had to cross it.
Sitting ducks. If you're, you can't. If you got a paddle in order to move, you can't be engaging the enemy. I mean, you're just kind of. You're right. You're
When
sitting
we
duck.
was on the end of the beach here, they had a canal there they called the Mussolini Canal. We crossed that thing almost every night. Somebody did. Not, one man didn't cross it all the time, but somebody crossed it every night on a combat patrol or reconnaissance patrol. every night. And we had one guy named Buckenheimer that spoke German. That was one crazy boy. He got captured 2 or 3 times and got away, and they said if they ever get him again, they kill him. His name's in that book.
That'll be the last time. Did he get captured again?
And his name is in that book, missing in action, and he was killed. But he come from Germany in 1938. And got in the American Army and was a sergeant. He wasn't even an American citizen. He said, Buckenheimer private takes general's job. That was what come out in the Stars and Stripes. He was crazy. And we had another guy in there named Major Gorham, German guy. He was a dude. He spoke German all the time. And he was with S2, they called it. I don't know what S2 meant.
Intelligence. The intelligence arm is what that is.
He's got his pictures in that book. I knew all of them. There's one in here that I saw on Oliver North. I drove the Jeep for him. I don't know how I'd ever see him again, but Father Kozak and the elder guy that was a priest, I don't know where I can find it now. I ain't looked at it in years. That's the way some of them look. Let me see if I can find it. You know who that is, man?
I can't tell upside
General
down.
Gavin.
Oh, Gavin.
That's Colonel Tucker.
Well, you said you had a cricket. You also have a story about a password.
Oh, I forgot what the password was. And during the Battle of the Bulge, I was in a Jeep with radio equipment on it, carrying it up. I don't know, it was muddy and nasty. And we come up to this intersection, and the traffic, they were turning the traffic different ways, you know. And when I pulled up there, the MP stopped me. He said something. I didn't know what he was talking about, you know. He took me out and put me in another Jeep. So I went on with him and went on up to the area where my company commander and all of them was up, and Captain Shelley. The MP carried me in the room where he was at, and he looked at me and said, James, what are you doing in there? I said, my God, I didn't know the password. He told that MP, he said, I'll take care of my Norm, he's my man. Went over and raised that thing up.
To show what the password was?
He just stuck his finger down like that, smoking mountain. I'm gonna never forget it.
What was it?
Smoky Mountain.
Smoky
You
Mountain.
said smoking and said
Big
mountain.
Okay.
It was unreal. Captain Shelley said, you get back down and write that in your brain.
Did you ever forget the password again?
Never. See, they changed it sometimes overnight. If the word got out, it got changed, but there's always a runner to come by and tell you. Password's been changed. So you had to remember. But there was something else. You know, I don't know, every one of those officers, most of my officers that I had, they liked me. Every one of them did. Colonel Tucker used to say, send me James up here. He's a Private Anderson, that's what he called him. And some of them, Sergeant Giff would say, how come you want to send him up there all the time? He says, he knows what I want to do. And I tell him when I get in there, I said, you get ready to run now. If we have to run, I'm going to run. And I said, you hold if we have to leave fast. But I'd always get out. He was a good guy.
You have another good story about Booney.
Oh, it wasn't too much story about him because I never saw him, but from the time we went to Sister, He jumped in Sicily. I never saw him no more.
Where did you meet him, though? Where did you know him from?
In my company.
And you had known him for a year or some months?
Oh,
or?
I don't doubt it wasn't a year.
But he just,
He got captured in Sicily. Never seen him no more than we got to a place called Webermann, Germany, over on a prison camp. And the first thing he found out what the 504 was in that area. He come up to the autumn room and asked Captain Silver when I get paid. That was about 2.5 years later.
So did you actually liberate that camp? I mean, you overran that camp and freed him, or was it or had already
No,
been
he
taken?
come to the company area.
I see.
Come down the company area. And I was always around the company area most of the time. But he was something else.
Where were you when the war ended, James?
We was on the Elbe River, 75 miles from Berlin. And I had left and went down to pick up a load of ammunition, mortar shells and artillery shells on a tractor and trailer. Come back that night when we come in, there was more Germans crossing the bridge than I ever seen in my life. And I wanted to know what the heck was going on. The Russians was coming this way. We were going this way. And the Germans were trying to get across that bridge to keep the Russians from getting them. That's where we met the Russians at, on the Elbe River.
Did you think when you saw all the Germans crossing
We
the
didn't
bridge?
know what was going on.
So it just
we hadn't heard nothing.
When did you, how did the word get out?
Pardon?
How did the word get out that, the war is over? I mean, how
I
did
don't
you find
know.
out?
When the war really ended, it just ended that quick. And somebody said, the war is over. I said, what do you mean? And they were Germans coming from everywhere. I didn't know they had that many people over there. And they, in that book, they got pictures of them. They were on any way they could get across that river, out from where the Russians were coming up. The Russians were crazy. So they didn't take nothing. They were bad.
So was there fighting and then all of a sudden it just got quiet? I mean, kind of like you think that there's a...
Well, when we got back up there, there wasn't no shooting at all going back on. We went off that evening and come back that night with a load of stuff to the river, but we wasn't going to cross the river. And everything had done got so quiet, and they said the war was over. And you could tell it was over with all them people coming out.
Were there any firefights after that? Really, no?
Nothing.
Wow.
Nothing after that. And we stayed there about, I would say roughly a week. And then we pulled out and went to, back down in France. Had the whole unit back in France. And
I think you said it was Marseille.
no, I went to Marseille after I left the company.
Oh, okay.
After I left the organization. The 82nd stayed over there. And I got back down there and I asked the captain to give me a pass to go to England. So I went to England. I come back 5 days late. Got deducted that. That's where I got 5 days.
Did you stay a private?
Yeah, I was still a private. They couldn't bust me. They come back in, he said, Captain Silver, he said, I'm going to get rid of you once and for all. I said, well, they're going to put me in the stockade now. He sent me to Marseille, France. He said, I'm going to send you home. That's when I come home.
Which was good.
I stayed down there a long time before I could get on a boat.
You came back with the 101st, though. Is that right?
Yeah. I went to Signal Company at 101st. We discharged in Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
But it was an interesting return to the U.S. You came into Virginia. Did you come by ship?
Virginia.
Did you come by ship? Was the return trip any better than the trip over in a ship?
It wasn't as long. It was only about 10 days coming back. But the old Liberty ship, and you just you'd hang on to something, anything to get back home. And
What was the homecoming like, James, when you got to the port? You came into Virginia, Hampton Roads?
When we got to Virginia, see, most of us had a folder with all of our records and everything in it. We knew where we were going. When we got to Hampton Road, Virginia, we could go get a steak supper or go home, whatever you wanted to do. So when we got to Hampton Roads and started unloading the ship, I got me a taxi. I headed for Columbia, South Carolina. I had all my paperwork, you know, and they told me what day I had to be in Fayetteville, North Carolina, December the 6th. So I come home, and that was in November. And then December, I borrowed my brother's car and went to Fayetteville. Didn't do nothing, but go right straight through, discharged, and was gone right back home.
Do you remember how much that taxi ride cost?
$75.
You hardly get a tank of gas for that.
Four of us paid it.
Oh, so there are 4 of you in that taxi.
Yeah. One girl and 3 boys.
I wonder what the taxi driver thought when you got in Virginia, said, we're going to Columbus.
The taxi driver would take you anywhere you want to go, but he wouldn't come no further than Columbus. Columbia, South Carolina. We got another taxi from Columbia to Augusta. It wasn't all that much. And then my brother, I done called him, and he was waiting on me. When I got to he brought us to the bus station. And that Wack was with us. He caught the bus to Atlanta. And them other boys, one went to Alabama, and one went to Savannah. I forget where the other one went. Porter Jenkins and I Sweet with that.
When you were in Europe, when you were overseas for World War II, did your mail find you? Did the mail get to you from home?
Yeah. We had a mailing system, you know, that they photographed the letter. You just have one little piece of paper about that long. You write what you wanted, and they photographed it, and then it was rephotographed when it got to the States. And they shipped millions of them. I forget what they called that now. But it wasn't bad about mail. It was catching up with you, was the bad part of it. The mail come in, but it didn't really, if it took a while to catch up with where you were at.
So you might have a bunch of mail come in at the same day, kind of read them in order?
Sometimes you just start reading them.
Did you keep up with news of what was happening in the European theater? I mean, how did you know how the war was going other places in Germany?
Literally, we didn't keep up with it too much. We had a paper called the Stars and Stripes. Up front with Bill Baldwin. And he had just about all of it out there now. And it was really pretty nice to read something like that.
How did you ever get any news of the Pacific?
We didn't get too much on it except just about the time the war began to end in Europe, or it was ended. They were talking about packing up and going over to the Pacific. And then in August, I think it was, they dropped the first atomic bomb over there. And they said there probably won't be no shipping. Then they dropped another one, and that ended it. So that way everything just disappeared, and people going every which way. You might get on your own, anywhere you want to go, anywhere you want to get out, you could get out. They didn't even question about getting out of the army. They would want to get rid of you.
Yeah, they want you to.
And bring them in by the boatloads and just turn you loose and let you go wherever you want to go to get out.
How was the Army chow?
Some of it was good and some of it was loud.
Did you have mostly hot chow, or were you eating a lot of sea rations?
We had sea rations, K rations, and then they come out with what they call a 10-in-1 ration. Now it was pretty good. And then we had some kind of, I don't know, it's a vitamin bar, I reckon. You could put in your pants leg, in your pocket, one little square like that was a meal.
Was that called a John Wayne bar?
I don't know what it's called, but I tell you what, you didn't eat much of it. It was powerful. But you could live off of it.
Sure.
You could live for days.
Did you have plenty of water?
Yeah, we had plenty of water. Because most of the time they had one of the most salt water things set up to purify the water. It wasn't cold, but it was wet anyway. And plenty of wine.
Is that why you don't drink wine now? Did you have a little bit back then?
I drank then, but I don't drink now. We'd find one of them Beano parlors where they made wine in, them big old wooden barrels. Take in one rifle, shoot a hole in it, put a 5-gallon water can in it and fill it up.
What career did you pursue after the Army?
Pardon?
What career did you pursue after the Army?
Well, when I come out of the Army, I went to visit my brother, and he had been working, making Army clothes in a mill. He said, "You want a job?" I said, "I got to find something to do. I ain't got no money and I ain't got no job." He said, "Come to work up here." And his boss man come by, he said, "When you want to go to work?" I said, "When can I go to work?" He said, "January the 1st. So January the 1st, I went to work under some kind of program that the government had out. Didn't make no money, but I worked. And I worked that 6 years. Then I went to work for DuPont. And I worked over the Savannah River plant for 3.5 years. And I decided then that I better find me something else to do. And I went to work for Inglett Company, make automatic packing machines. I stayed 30 years. That's where I retired from. I make good money working now.
Where did you fit your family in there? When did you decide to get married and have a family?
1953. And, well, I had dated her before I went in service. And she married and had 2 kids. Then I started back dating her again, I guess it was in the 50s. And then 53, she had 2 small girls, and I married her again with two small kids. We never had any kids. But she had 2. I still got one of them. And she lived in Pittsburgh. But I enjoyed them. Then I got them 2 my sister got. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in the city if something happens to me. She told Mama, she said, "I guess I'll let shoot myself when he dies." I said, "No, don't be that crazy."
Well, Mr. Anderson, what's your most vivid memory of World War II? What's your most vivid memory?
Really, and truly, the worst place that I was in while I stayed over there was a place called the River on the Baltimore River. We was up there, and I have never in all my life over there at anything seen as much artillery shot as it was over that mountain. They'd hold a truce.
Both directions?
Both ways. They'd hold a truce about 4 o'clock in the evening until it got dark, and then they'd break out again. It went on that way for days. Then it started raining, and it was nasty. But on the, I guess the worst thing that I ever seen was during the Battle of the Bulge. It was ice, snow, mud, rain, you name it, it was there. And it was miserable. I mean miserable.
Were you able to keep your feet dry?
Well, you could keep them dry part of the time. But it was miserable. I drove a weasel over there. They call it a weasel. I don't know whether you ever seen one in the army, but it had tracks on it about 3 foot wide, painted white, carried ammunition up to the front lines. Well, nothing but just 2 sides, a motor, and them tracks. Stack it full of ammunition, and it was just white as snow. He stopped, he was white. I hauled ammunition on them things a million a day. 2 sticks in it to drive it with. Well, I was in transportation all the time, man, moving stuff all the time.
Well, the Army travels on its belly. You know, food, rations, mail, ammunition.
You got to move
ammunition,
something all
water.
the time.
Yes.
All the time. Everything you do, you got to move something.
And that's probably the single greatest reason why a unit moves slowly, is the service part cannot keep up with the fast as the
Even
regiment can
when
go.
we move stuff by plane, we pack them planes so full, you'd wonder how they ever get off the ground. And sometimes when you couldn't hardly get them to land, because it'd be tail heavy and drop down before the nose wheel come down, because them old T-46 had a wheel in the back, 2 in the front. And sometimes they had to make a couple of passes to get it on the ground, but they were good planes. That's the best plane we ever had, probably, because they would move everything.
What would you like for young people to know or to remember about World War II that they may not know?
I really don't know, because the Army has changed so much since I was in there. It's all push button now, just about it. And I don't know nothing about that, nothing. But you know, back when we had it, we put out a line, telephone line, we had to unroll a roll of wire, spoon. 9 times out of 10, somebody would chop it in 2 before you got it where you were going. And you'd have to go back and pull another line. I told some of them, I bet I pulled enough wire to reach from here to New York City and back. Just wire. 2 wires with an old crank phone on it. And that's all we had. We didn't have this stuff you got now. This stuff you got now, you don't need no wire.
Well, just so you'll know, I used that wire in those crank phones when I entered the service in '75.
You did.
One
Yeah.
battery up, one battery down.
You know, I got a radio right now that I brought home with me out of the Army. It was at the USO. It worked on 6 flashlight batteries.
Oh gosh,
Sitting on the head of my bed right now.
really?
I got it from the USO before I left to come home.
So that's a good memory. That's a good memory for you, that equipment?
Well, I had a good time in England, I'll put it that way. I had a good time there. But I didn't stay that long. I almost got married there. I met a little old girl there, and I went back to steal one time from France. And after I got back, I got to thinking about it. I said, I'm going home. I never did go back no more. I never did even write to her no more.
Well, Mr. Anderson, I want to capture some of the pictures you have here. So we're going to transition over to taking some shots of some of the pictures that you have in your book.
Well, you can take.
Well, I will in just one second. I just want to thank you so much. I want to thank you for being part of this interview.
Have you made some pictures out of it already?
I'm going to catch them on the camera in just a minute.
Okay.
We're going to do that next.
Well, you can get whatever you want out of it.
On behalf of the Augusta Richmond County Historical Society and the Library of Congress, thank you very much for participating
Well, I thank you for
in this.
having me up here.
It's been a delight.
And I've enjoyed it, and I hope everybody else does.
Okay, shall we take a look at this first item?
Pardon?
Shall we take a look at this item right here?
What do you want me to do? Hold it
Just
out?
like that, it's perfect. This is your honorable discharge. On the left. And then this is your record of, your enlisted record and report of separation on the right. Talks about all the places you were and your awards. Combat Infantry Badge, CIB. Very impressive. Now we'll get a close-up on your discharge. Okay, now this book is what?
It's called The Devils in Baggy Pants.
Uh-huh.
The pants and things that we wore were just baggy as they could be and had pockets all over them, so you could put all your supplies in your pockets. And everything you had it in your pocket.
Now we'll get a close-up on your discharge. Okay, now this book is what?
It's called The Devils in Baggy Pants.
Uh-huh.
The pants and things that we wore were just baggy as they could be and had pockets all over them, so you could put all your supplies in your pockets. And everything you had it in your pocket.
Uh-huh. Now open up to where you have that marked a little bit. Let's take a shot of that. I'm going to go tight on that.
And this is the diarrhea right here. Diarrhea of it.
I'm not sure we're going to be able to get that, but it says, oh yeah. Okay, here we go. American parachutists, devils in baggy pants, are less than 100 meters from my outpost line. I can't sleep at night. They pop up from nowhere, and we never know when or how they will strike next. Seems like the black-hearted devils are everywhere. And this was the dummy going on this one too. Found in the diary of a German officer who opposed the 504th on Anzio Beachhead. Wow. And let me also get those, I'd like to get a shot of those patches. Oh, those are nice. Now this is a very handsome Mr. James Anderson. And we can tell that he always was handsome. Because look at that young soldier. Now let's get a close-up. Oh boy. Now I'm just going to go to one and get a close-up on that one. You would be hard to resist in that uniform. Thank you.